All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the very heart of reality itself, and we're going to do it using the razor-sharp ideas of one of philosophy's greatest thinkers, David Hume. So get ready, because your most basic assumptions about the world are about to get seriously challenged.
You know, you see it 1,000 times a day. You flick a switch, a light turns on. You see one billiard ball hit another, and the second one just zips away. It's cause and effect, right? It feels like the fundamental glue holding our entire world together. It seems so simple, so obvious.
But this is where Hume comes in with a totally radical question. He asks, do we ever actually see that connection? Do we really perceive the cause itself, or is that just something our minds are making up?
Now, to investigate this, Hume set a really strict ground rule for himself, a sort of philosophical test. He said, if you have an idea, any idea at all, you have to be able to trace it back to a direct sensory experience. If you can't, you have to toss it out. No exceptions.
So he started by kind of mapping out the mind. And first up, he identified what he called impressions. Think of these as the raw data of reality hitting your senses. It's that vivid sting when you touch something hot, the bright red of a stop sign, that immediate rush of happiness. They're forceful, they're lively, you can't deny them.
And then you have ideas. Now, these are like the echoes, the faint copies of those impressions that we use when we're thinking or remembering. It's not the actual burn, but the memory of the burn. Not seeing red, but the thought of the color red.
And the key difference here, the thing you really got to get, is just the level of intensity. It's about force and vivacity. An impression is feeling something, right here, right now. An idea is just thinking about it. One is this intense, immediate experience. The other is kind of like a faded photograph of it.
Okay, so now that we have those tools, impressions, and ideas, let's go back and tackle that first big mystery. Where does our idea of cause and effect actually come from?
Let's go back to those billiard balls. We see the first ball roll. We see it make contact with the second one. And then we see the second ball roll away. We see them next to each other, one after the other. But, and this is the kicker, look as hard as you want, you will never, ever see a third thing called causation. That little spark of connection, it's just not there.
So if we don't actually see it, where does this powerful idea of cause come from? Well, Hume says it all comes down to repetition. After you see this constant conjunction, A always followed by B, over and over and over again, your mind starts to form a really powerful habit. And this right here is the brilliant leap. That powerful feeling of expectation, that little mental push that makes you anticipate the second ball moving before it even happens, that feeling is the impression we've been searching for all along.
So Hume's conclusion is an absolute bombshell. The necessary connection we're so sure exists between a cause and its effect, it isn't actually a property of the outside world, not at all. It's a feeling, an internal impression that's created in our own minds simply by the force of habit.
Whoa! Okay, so if causation is basically a mental habit, what happens when we turn that same tough, unforgiving analysis inward? What happens when we look for the idea of our self?
Hume wants you to try a little experiment. Just for a second, turn your attention inward and try to find this thing you call you. I mean, really try to pin down that single, stable, unchanging self that's supposed to be having all your thoughts and feelings.
So what'd you find? Hume says that all you'll ever catch is a constant parade of individual perceptions. A thought about what's for dinner, a flash of annoyance, the feeling of warmth from your coffee, a memory of last summer. It's just a stream of stuff.
You never actually perceive the thinker that's separate from the thoughts. You never find the feeler apart from the feelings. It's like there's no permanent stage that this whole drama of consciousness is playing out on. There's just the drama itself. That solid self is never an impression we can actually find.
And this leads us to Hume's really staggering bundle theory. The self, he says, isn't some solid, continuous thing. It's nothing more than a bundle of different perceptions that are in constant motion, just one experience rapidly following another that our imagination mistakenly ties together.
So the crucial point here is pretty wild. That feeling of having a stable, personal identity, the same you over time, it's kind of a fiction. It's a story our mind makes up to create a sense of unity for this ever-changing collection of experiences.
Okay, at this point you might be thinking, this is a total disaster, right?
If cause and effect is just a feeling in my head and myself is just a bundle of perceptions, how can I trust anything? How am I even supposed to get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, is Hume basically telling us that we should be paralyzed by doubt, unable to believe that the sun will rise or even that we have a name?
And this, right here, is Hume's masterstroke. His answer is a surprising no. He says philosophy might lead us to these terrifying places when we're sitting in our study, but human nature itself pulls us right back from the edge.
See, at the end of the day, we aren't creatures of pure reason. We're driven by custom, by habit, by our feelings and passions. Nature basically forces us to believe in cause and effect just to survive. We can't help but feel like we're a continuous self. As soon as we get out of our philosophical armchair, we just go back to living and talking and acting like everybody else.
So what does this all mean for us? Well, Hume leaves us with some pretty profound takeaways. First, a lot of what we think of as rock-solid certainty is actually just a subjective feeling. Second, our identity is more of a narrative, a story we build. And third, maybe the greatest wisdom isn't about finding all the answers, but about recognizing the limits of our own reason.
You know, for Hume, the point of this whole mental exercise isn't to live in a constant state of panic and doubt. It's actually to make us a little more modest, maybe a bit less dogmatic in our beliefs, and just more aware that habit, not pure logic, is really the great guide of human life.
And so, Hume's whole investigation leaves us with a final, really probing question to ask ourselves. By turning that skeptical lens on our own minds, we're forced to wonder what other certainties in our lives, the things we believe without question, might just be the product of a very, very powerful habit.